When you're alone with absolutely no friends, you discover so much about yourself. I feel like you break through the barrier of insecurities and actively build confidence in your own worth. Having no friends should not stop you from living your best life.
Hi, I'm Heather, and today we're going to be diving into the topic of having no friends. This is a pep talk for you and for myself about having no friends and how it's actually okay. As a fellow loner and introvert, this is a statement that being alone doesn't have to mean that you're lonely. When I was a kid, I spent most of my time alone. I was a military child, so I just moved around all the time. And as an adult, I've gone through countless growth and loss of adult friendships as well. So here's how you can actually grow from being alone, and ultimately how to get out of your shell and make new and lasting friendships. Here's the thing, not having friends is very common, especially for our generation. We grew up on the internet and we're used to seeing so many people post about being and having friends all the time, being way more social than we are. And it can make us feel like we don't have enough friends or that we're not social enough. And I used to think before that if I couldn't keep friends, there was like something wrong with me. Like, was I being too weird or unlikable? But all that being said, it's normal to want companionship. At the same time, being alone is way better than being a part of a group where you don't belong. When I think about not fitting in and not being able to find friends, I think of this one moment in middle school where I was bullied. It changed my idea of friendships forever. Basically, I had these friends in elementary and then I moved away. I moved back in middle school and my friends had completely changed, but I thought they're my friends, right? Unfortunately, my friends had turned into those mean middle school girls who made fun of people, stole people's things, and eventually I was the butt of a prank that went horribly wrong. I eventually had to tell my mom. My mom came and told the school principal. Pretty much, my mom said I wasn't allowed to be friends with these girls ever again. And I remember not knowing who I was going to sit with in the morning at school the next day, and it was honestly heartbreaking. But people do grow and change and drift apart, and forcing friendships with people that shouldn't be your friends or that aren't like-minded as you can be just as detrimental, if not more, than being alone. But you know what? The next day, I found an acquaintance that I hadn't really talked to in a long time. I walked to school with her and made new friends that morning. It took some adjustment, obviously, but I really did feel way more comfortable in myself with my new group of people, and I didn't feel like I had to put up a facade or make fun of other people and put them down to feel like I was comfortable and accepted in my friend group. So I always think about that as a learning experience when it comes to friends. People drift and people grow apart, and you grow too. Or sometimes you stay the same and other people change. And on the note of drifting away from friends, one thing I've learned as an adult is other people will move away too. When I was growing up, I was always the one that was moving away. But currently, I'm in a place where one of my closest friends that I used to hang out with on a weekly basis just moved away. And that's sometimes where life takes us as adults. And you know, her moving overseas has brought back those feelings of loneliness for me. But I think it's always important to be grateful for the friendships that you do have. They say that some people come into your life for a moment, a day, or a lifetime. It matters not the time they spent with you, but how they impacted your life in that time. And that's another thing as an adult I'm growing to accept. Not every friend that I have is going to be a lifelong friend like I see in the movies. Friends do come and go, and there's different levels of friendships. There's some that you cannot talk to for years, and when you talk to them, it's like you never stop talking. And then there's other people that you're more of acquaintances, but they can just be there at the right time when you need them. So the term friend really ebbs and flows, and there's no need to put so much pressure on what a friend needs to be or have a lot of expectations about how much you need to communicate with them or they need to communicate with you. Everyone has so much going on in their lives, especially as an adult. So stepping back and just being grateful for the friendships that you have had, focusing on the good times, even if it didn't end so great, is way more important and like provides more value for you, right? Being grateful for those friendships and not being tied down by what a friend needs to be for you or regretting ending leaves room for new relationships to form. For anyone else who grew up on the internet, the great thing about it is you can find other communities online of people that like the same thing you do, even if you can't find them in person. So for me, I really enjoyed the streaming and the gaming community. My life took me in a different direction where I decided I wanted to stop secluding myself indoors, playing video games for hours on end, and make friendships in person and hang out outside, touch grass. But unfortunately, that meant dropping my old friends. But sometimes that happens when you need to prioritize your own mental health. And stepping away from that hobby, that life, that future I had planned meant cutting out my friends and having an entirely different route in future and new friends and acquaintances. And if you've ever felt a shift like that, or maybe you're going through it right now, where you're in the transition of cutting off an old life, like maybe you used to party and now you want to focus on school, or maybe you're just starting your own job as an adult and you can't hang out with your friends from high school that are holding you back. Wherever you're currently at in your journey that you're feeling lonely and you feel like you don't have any friends, first I want to comfort you and tell you that it's way better to be alone and in your own element than with people that don't make you feel like you're included. So if that's where you are and you're currently reflecting on your new self, who you want to be and what your new goals are, sometimes that means realizing old people are just not for you. And I really congratulate you because that takes a lot of courage. You know, it's not all bad. So I want to talk about why I enjoy solitude and why it can actually be pretty fun. Solitude can be fantastic, especially if you are an introvert, because you get most of your energy when you're alone. You don't need to talk to anyone and you feel just fine. For example, I have discovered so many new interests and hobbies just by spending time by myself. I even rediscovered old hobbies that I really liked when I was a kid. I've gotten back into reading. I picked up new hobbies like going to the gym, and I truly enjoy my own company. I think some people have the opposite where they don't enjoy being alone and always need to be around people, but even when you enjoy spending time alone, there comes a time when you want that companionship. You want to hang out with people and you want to do group activities with others. Yeah, you know, that's how it is. You got to protect your own mental health. So if you're currently in between a friend group or a breakup or what have you, you're lonely, friendless, like me, what do you do? Well, there's a few things, but first of all, I think it's important to evaluate why it is that you're feeling lonely and the cause of it, and then you can address that. So, one possibility is fear of connection. I think the hardest part about making friends is feeling like, girl, I don't even know how to connect with people. When you have a friend that you've known for a really long time, you kind of get complacent and you forget about trying to make new friends. And I know how it feels when you're like, as soon as I start talking to someone new, it feels awkward. I never know what to say. The conversation just tends to go stale. But that's exactly why you need to put yourself out there. And that's exactly how to counter the fear of connection. I was an indoor gamer who didn't know how to hold conversation unless it involved the newest release or console. Okay, I was there. There are a few things that helped me. One is a good book on the subject. One is How to Win Friends and Influence People. This is just a really quick read. There's some nice gold nuggets of information in there. Like seriously, if you don't even read that much, this is so easy. The chapters are like 3 to 5 pages each, and you can just sit on the information from chapter to chapter and really apply it. But in that book of How to Win Friends and Influence People, it helped me think more about how to connect with someone else. One thing I took from that book is to be genuinely interested in the other person. Before, I was thinking more about what do they want me to say next? What kind of questions can I ask? But that book helped me to see that they're just a person, and if you come into the conversation genuine curiosity, the conversation seems to flow more. So instead of coming in with the goal of, I need this person to be my friend, keep it super simple. How about trying to remember their name? That could be something super basic. I know I'm bad at it. Ask questions, and if they aren't offering any information, you be the one to offer information to the conversation. You know, I was the type that I only used to give information in conversation if someone asked me. I'd be like, I don't know, I just feel like I'm bothering people by telling them about myself, or like I'm being conceited. But the crazy thing is, I learned that when you start opening up to people, they feel comfortable enough to open up to you too. If you come off as guarded, then they feel guarded. And trust me, I can be guarded. Taking a look at the cause of your loneliness can be the first step. And if you're like, I don't know where to start, let's look at the cause. If you're alone because you feel hurt, it could be that you're just trying to avoid being hurt. and you're just always offended by friends and family who like talk behind your back, or you just feel like you can't trust them, it can be hard to find new friendships because you just think everyone's the same, no one can be trusted. But it's hard because you have to give new people the benefit of the doubt and not come from a place of hurt and antitrust. So knowing if you're lonely because you're hurt can help you solve the problem by trusting more, opening up, starting conversations, giving information, rather than hiding away and avoiding any confrontation. Another one can be if you just moved to a new city, like maybe you just moved for college or a job. So yeah, you don't know anybody yet, and you're not just gonna magically get to know people either unless you put yourselves in a situation where you can get to know people. One thing that really helped me when I first moved into this new building is they had a New Year's event. It was at this ping pong place, which was great because it was like an activity to do ping pong while you were meeting the new people in your building. So we had ping pong, an activity, and something in common. We were all living in the same building. During this event, it was pretty daunting going and not knowing anybody, but I set a rule for myself that I would spend about 15 minutes per person. That was a rule for myself because I tend to cling to one person. Like, okay, I know one person, check box, I've done all I needed to do here. I made one friend, which is great. But by setting the time limit of 15 minutes, it pushed me to try and one, practice conversation with multiple different people, two, actually get to know different people. And you'll realize that that 15-minute mark is actually a great stopping point because that's kind of where conversation starts to lull a little bit. And I would just be like, it was really nice to meet you. I'm gonna go grab a snack, or I'll see you around. I'm gonna go play some ping pong. And then I would go to the snack table and speak with someone there, or I would go ask someone if they wanted to play ping pong. Because what's crazy is when I looked around, I saw so many people that also didn't know anybody else. The point is, getting out of your comfort zone can be really scary, but the more that you practice speaking with people you don't know, the easier it'll come to you. I know sometimes it seems like for people it just comes so naturally and they can just talk to anyone, but it is a muscle that you have to work, especially if you're an introvert. You have to practice what it's like to be extroverted for a bit. Practice it. Not everyone knows how to do it. You can build this skill and you can learn and grow and practice. Another thing that I loved is if you can't find any events in your area, host an event. My friend decided to be the one to host events at her house. So she hosted a dinner and game night, and she invited her friends and coworkers and told each of them to bring one or two more friends. So her neighbors, coworkers, different coworkers all brought someone else. So whenever we would have this game night once a month, we would mingle with different people that we didn't know, and it was never the same game night, and we would have conversation over dinner that was just really lighthearted, and then there was also an activity of playing games. So if you can't find anything else to do, make it yourself. Start inviting acquaintances over and tell them to invite someone else that you don't know. The biggest thing that I recommend is to find a community in something new, something that you enjoy doing. If you want to get more active, try and find a community that's active, like running or swimming or some kind of hobby where there's a community associated with it. For me, I took up bouldering recently again, which is indoor climbing, and the environment is so fun and it's very interactive because you're trying to solve climbing puzzles along with other people, and you can see how they accomplish the puzzle and they can give you advice. And sometimes when you complete a puzzle, everyone just cheers you on and it's so fun. It's very laid back and I love being a part of that community. They also have yoga, which I've started going to more of their yoga classes and making an effort to try and introduce myself to just the instructor and say hi and what my name is, or the person next to me at the yoga mat and just say hi. One thing that really stood out to me was there was this girl at the yoga class and the instructor was asking each of us what we wanted to go over that day, right? Sometimes yoga instructors will be like, oh, what do you want to focus on? And I was like, oh, shoulders. Other people were like, lower back or something like that. And this girl, she was the very last one and right next to me. And she goes, honestly, anything is fine. I'm probably just gonna lay in the corner and cry. I've had a rough day. Immediately, I just turned to her and just put my hand on her shoulder and I was just like, I'm so sorry. I hope you're okay. The reason why I remember her so much is because I'm sure the last thing she wanted to do when she was having a rough day was come to a yoga class and be in front of multiple people and potentially cry in front of them. It's very vulnerable to put yourself out there, but I know she felt like by going to yoga, it would better her mental health and being around other people would help her as well. And it's just so admirable to me that she said that. She was open and honest and just vulnerable. So yeah, I know if you're in the same place and you're feeling really lonely and you feel like you don't want to go out of your way to make friends, it will help in the long run, and it'll only get easier by doing it more often. You know, be like the girl in the yoga class. Even when it's hard, you're going to be so glad that you did it. And even if you don't have friends right now, that should not stop you from going out and trying new things and doing things that you want to do. Continue to live your best life, but keep an open heart to making new friends along the way. And if you want to practice this exercise right now, drop a comment down below or one action that you're going to take this week. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.